Welcome, everybody, to the Local Hour on Thursday. That usually means David Samson, host of Nothing Personal with David Samson. Follow him on Twitter, at David P. Samson. Joins us every week. Thank you. Miguel Cabrera is the big story in baseball, I think, although I'm not really seeing it on television right now. We have a legend of the game, one hit away from 3,000. Sheets and Giggles is paying for Billy Gill to go to Detroit. He just sent a photo from an airplane.
It's so great.
He is going to be there, hopefully. He's got 4 games to do this, David, for Miguel Cabrera's 3,000th hit. Miguel Cabrera actually having a pretty good year this season. I know it's early. David, why aren't you there?
Well, he's got 4 games to do it. Did Sheets and Giggles say, first of all, is he in coach or first class?
I don't know. It's debatable. It looks like first class.
No, this was coach. This was coach.
Yeah?
It's not debatable. Just look at the seat.
Well, I mean, he took a picture of like the aisle. He's very close to the cockpit, so I don't know. I mean,
Maybe
it could be
he's
first
flying
class.
the
I don't know what the relevance of that question is. The point of it is a sponsor, in the true spirit of sponsorship, said Billy wants to go to Detroit on his day off, and may Meadowlark be able to do more deals like this that we could not at ESPN, where Billy gets to just get up and go. And thanks to Sheets and Giggles for sponsoring it. I hope that he goes hitless for 4 games. And Billy's
How
just...
many pairs of underwear did Billy bring is the question. Is he ready to stay the full 4 days?
Well, that's a very good question. I'm not sure, and perhaps beyond. I mean, he might have to follow him on the road after this 4-game homestand. Why are you rooting for Billy to have a miserable time in Detroit?
It's just funnier.
It is funny if Billy's lost for a week.
If we can get constant updates from him just wandering around Detroit, not seeing the 3,000th hit. We also want it to be the 600th double, right? We want him to get to celebrate both of those on the same hit.
Equal in impressiveness and historic lore. Why aren't you there in Detroit, David?
I'm going to cover it from here because I didn't feel like schlepping. I truly did not feel like schlepping studio equipment to record Nothing Personal from Detroit. And the other reason is that I would have, maybe I would have access. I could call Al. I could have gone. But you know what? I actually went to see Ichiro get his 3,000th hit, but that was totally different because I knew I'd be in the clubhouse. I knew I'd be a part of it because he was on our team. And I would feel so much like an outsider, number one. I'd feel totally normal and unimportant, which is bruising to an ego that is still recovering from not being in baseball for all these years. And I still haven't been to a game since I got let go. So with my first game, there'd be some sort of symmetry to that. Maybe seeing Cabrera's 3,000, but I'm not going to schlep around and follow him for 3, 4, 5, 6 games. But it could happen today. But is he going to play today? What if Billy goes all the way there and he doesn't even play today?
Well, you said it was a sure thing that he would, even though he doesn't like afternoon games.
Who's Al?
Boy, oh, God, am I showing my age? Is that not the GM of the Tigers, Al Avila?
Oh, he just didn't know who Al was. That's his.
You just said Al. You were so tight.
Right.
That's his ignorance, not yours. But I'm not sure that Al still is the GM of the Tigers. I don't think he still is. Is he?
I guess there's a definite chance that my time stood still. But I believe that Al is still there.
Okay, that I might have.
Who cares? Let's move on.
I might have that wrong, but I do think that you've got it
Al
wrong.
is still there.
Wow.
I do think that you've got it wrong, David, when you say you would not be an important figure just schlepping around.
Al's from Cuba.
That's correct.
Huh.
Not a lot of Al's from Cuba.
I'm guessing it's Alberto.
Yeah, I'm guessing too.
His son just retired, actually. His son had a pretty long major league career.
Much of it for the Tigers. Samson, though, you said that you would not be an important figure here, and I believe that you should be part of this traveling roadshow in baseball's most historic sport. Ladies and gentlemen, the 3,000th historic hit, and here's the man who traded him.
So I could do that, right? I could call and say, hey, I want to be a part of it. I could call Chris Ilitch and say, I'd love to be there to celebrate and be able to talk to him after and before the game. But the problem is it's like watching Bud Selig schlep around waiting for Barry Bonds to break Hank Aaron's record or waiting for McGuire or to break Maris's record. You just don't know how many pairs of underwear, and I don't like that type of situation. I need to know exactly where I'm going and for how long I'll be gone.
I would like to ask Sheets and Giggles to also purchase your airplane ticket so we can send you Andrew Miller, Cameron Maben, Burke Badenhop, and Mike Rabello to this game. You can sit in the front row.
Wait, what about De La Cruz?
The Hopper.
There's a whole nother guy. I think his name was Julio De La Cruz. Wait a minute. Is the current Marlin the son of the guy we traded for Cabrera? Is that possible? The Marlins have a player named Brian De La Cruz, and it never occurred to me to ask, is that like Goldberg?
It would be great if only the sperm of that man was what was of any value in the trade that the Marlins made for Miguel Cabrera, that all they got was, I don't think there is a relation, but I do want to examine the making of that trade. I know you've done it a few times here, but just how it... You do this stuff impersonally, David, so does it stick to you at all, even though you say it's the mechanics of business, to have on your resume a trade that goes down as one of the epically worst in the history of transactions?
Oh, would you stop with that hyperbole? You think that is the worst? Did you say among the worst or the single worst?
I said among the worst.
I would say it's the worst.
It's not the single worst. The Yelich trade is up there, too.
Oh, yeah, Yelly.
Wait a minute. Are you talking just Marlins trades?
No,
That it is among the worst?
I'm talking
No, in
about
the history
I'm
of
talking,
baseball.
I'm talking
Man.
about everything
Jeez,
after
Lean
Babe
into it.
Ruth.
It's funny. It's funny. It's
I-
the worst trade ever made. Come on,
It's
lean
ridiculous.
into it.
I'm not leaning into that because what you do, Dan, this is your gig, right? It's your bit. You say these things, you don't want any pushback. That it's not even in
David,
the top
David,
20
He's
of
about
the
to have
worst
his
transactions.
3,000
David,
hit.
come on.
David,
He's hitting over 300 this season.
In David's defense, he got just under a third of those hits with the Marlins. I mean, he did.
The best player, the biggest
What
contributor
kind of
you got in
defense
that.
is
I mean,
that? He was
That's not
he
a
was
defense.
he
That
was
makes
one
it
of the
worse.
He had
best.
900 hits by the age of like 26 and David
Dude, you
traded
made it
him.
worse for me. Be quiet.
He was one
Trying to help.
of the best right-handed hitters in the history of the sport, and they traded away him in his prime. Don't tell me that a third of the hits were here. They were in like 3 seasons because he was so good.
He might be on the Mount Rushmore of Detroit athletes, David. The best contributor you got in that deal was a long reliever in the hopper.
I hope you guys enjoy this because it's really nice from the back row, right? Being the Monday morning quarterback on trades, and this is what you do for a living, and I get it. But at the time, we had to trade Cabrera because we couldn't sign him long-term, and to maximize his value as a commodity, we had to trade him that particular year. And we got, I can't believe I'm defending this to you, and we got 2 of the top 5 prospects in all of baseball. It would be like getting Tatis and Guerrero. That's who we got back.
And
Or
they didn't-
Hunter
if they worked
Green
out,
They,
yeah.
they,
and
they
Guerrero.
didn't pan out, and I don't know if
both-
someone can track down the quarantine episode that we did during lockdown, where we went really inside this trade for about 2 full shows, and all the other offers that you got and all the other names that were exchanged. It was a fascinating deal, and you did do your best in getting those prospects. They didn't pan
It didn't
out.
work. It didn't work.
It didn't work, and I'd rather we've made fun of you for this terrible trade long enough. Let's talk about Miguel Cabrera, the player, because
Yes,
he was in your
thank you.
organization. He hit a legendary home run against Roger Clemens, where he was very confused why everybody was standing up giving Roger Clemens an ovation. He had no idea the home run that he hit off that legend and the significance of it outside of it being in the World Series. Incredible player, was playing at third because Mike Lowell got hurt. Mike Lowell was such a huge player for you that season. And Miguel Cabrera, 20 years old, plops into the lineup and is an unbelievable player for you. What are your fondest memories of Miguel in that rookie year in 2003?
He hit cleanup in the World Series, by the way, as that young 20-year-old kid. So Miguel Cabrera comes up. We knew that he was going to be good, and we were holding him as long as possible in order to manipulate his service time. So we didn't call him up till the middle of June that season, somewhere around June 20th. And he walked into the clubhouse. He spoke very little English. He was extremely shy, extremely young. And what is remarkable about what has happened with Miguel Cabrera over the years is he went from being a kid to being a man. He had no interest in the history of the game. He had no interest in speaking to any of the veterans on the team. He didn't have any interest in who we were playing, in what city we were in. He just knew that he was a big leaguer and he was living a big league life and doing big league things with other people. And he was having the most fun you'd ever see a young, good player have. He did not need to work very hard. He was that good. And when he got to the plate, it didn't matter who the pitcher was. It didn't matter the scouting reports, all this analytics stuff. Miguel Cabrera in those days would laugh at that. He didn't need any of it. That's how good he was naturally. And he had a totally different body. So one thing that we got wrong about Miguel, when he was brought up, we did not project his body to be what it is today. We thought that he would remain more fit than he has remained.
Wasn't he playing shortstop?
He did play shortstop, but he was not called up to play shortstop. Do you know we actually called him up to play the outfield?
Yeah.
He was an infielder, so you say that he replaced Mike Lowell. We actually called him up. Mike Lowell got hurt August 31st. So Miguel Cabrera, when he was called up, we were putting him in left field. And we had our baseball people tell us, hey, you got to give him a bunch of games. He's too good a prospect. You got to let him play in the minor leagues. He's got to be out there to learn the travel of the ball and all this other crap. And Jeffrey Lurie, the owner of the team, said to Larry Beinfest, I don't give a crap. Bring him up right now. Let him get one game. So I'd have to go back and look how many games he actually played in the outfield in the minor leagues, but I'll bet you it was under 5 games when our guys wanted way more. So he was called up and put right into the outfield day one.
Was that
he was totally fine.
Was day one the walk-off against Tampa?
That was his first ever game.
That was incredible. So he was a shortstop in the minor leagues with the option to play third base, comes up, plays outfield. Then you guys have to do musical chairs a little bit because you acquired Jeff Conine. You brought back Mr. Marlin.
Niner.
And you had Juan Encarnacion. The Mike Lowell injury actually opened up a spot for Miguel Cabrera, and then you guys played musical chairs, and it almost got to the point where you were happy to be in the World Series aside from it being a massive achievement just because you had the DH.
Do you know that, have we talked about this? I can't remember anymore. Maybe I did on Nothing Personal, where Jeff Conine, Mr. Marlin, who was unceremoniously dumped by Jeter, now that Jeter's been ceremoniously dumped, Mr. Marlin, I suggested, may be contacted by the Marlins, and he may be coming home.
Wow.
I saw a video. I saw a video of him. It was moving. He put up the banners, and it was Conine and Mr. Marlin, who has played for 9 major league teams.
Let me just tell you about that video. Jeff Conine does not make that video if Derek Jeter had not been fired.
Ooh,
He would have declined the invite.
And so Conine, a welcome back luminaries.
Journalistically responsible. He said fired, and that wasn't the way that it was reported.
I think David's breaking news, though, there. Remember how mad you were about Jeter kicking out the luminaries? One of them, you're saying one of them's about to return back into the good graces of Marlin's family.
Does this mean Jack is coming back too? And what is he, 91 now?
Yep. Please say
91.
yes, David. Say
I
yes.
was just speaking to Jack.
Yeah.
Actually, he's still doing great. He wants to manage still.
No.
You guys got to bring him back.
If you guys were owning the team right now, and given that the pandemic isn't as red hot as it was during the last 2 seasons, would you have brought Jack back for one last job as manager?
Hurrah.
One last
We
gig.
already had it planned, Mike.
You had it planned.
Wait a minute. We had it planned that he was going to break Connie Mack's record for age, and it would have been in the 2018 season. We already had it arranged where we would fire our manager for a day, and we had spoken to the manager about it, and we had the date. It was all going to be set.
Mattingly was on board with this?
At Mattingly, Redmond, all the managers we had post Jack, when we calculated. So we had an issue calculating the right year and the right day to do it, because there's a lot of different views of when Connie Mack last managed, and there's some question as to when Jack was through the birth canal. So we had to do the correct math, because what we didn't want to do was have Jack back for the day and then not have the record, because that would have been a total waste. So we're
Already
doing
alienated.
math.
Fire
It was-
Donnie. I mean, the whole thing, right? I mean,
So one of the things that Jack and I have spoken about is why that wasn't more of a consideration in selling the team, why we didn't wait. And it would have been helpful to wait for myriad reasons, but why we didn't wait so Jack could do that, because it would have been a really cool record. I think Jack McKeon deserves to be in the Hall of Fame as much as any other manager out there with what he accomplished. People don't recall him as an executive with the Reds, managing the Padres, the things he did with the Marlins. Jack McKeon is a hugely successful manager and executive, but he wanted that record. It meant something to him. He still goes to church every day. He still is out there living his life, and it is too bad that it is not with the Marlins, because he loved coming back here and talking to fans. He was beloved by fans who have great memories of him and great thoughts of him, and he just won't come back now.
David, Miguel's last season with the Marlins, he batted .320. He had 34 homers, 119 RBIs, 91 runs. What was it about that season that made you want to trade him?
No, we knew we were trading him before the season started.
Huh.
So none of that. It was all pre-planned. Because if you waited, and again, this is about 15 years ago, so you're testing my memory. I believe that he had 2 years until free agency when we traded him. And if you wait until there's only 1 year, you're going to get fewer players back.
Such a gross franchise.
Mike was hurt. Mike was
to
wounded.
legacy and history. Just don't want anybody here longer than a couple of seasons. He's the
But if
greatest,
there's a guy to want here long as possible, it would be that guy.
greatest player to ever put on a Marlins uniform, and baseball people barely remember him as a Marlin now. He's outside of South Florida. He is as associated with that logo as like Ryan Sandberg is with the Cubs. It is amazing that he was so good at such a young age for us. But you look at his baseball reference page, and we're barely a blip.
There's a generation, David. There's a generation in Detroit that associates Miguel Cabrera with that team, and he's getting a hero send-off as if that's his hometown team, because so much time has gone by between when he was good here and when he's playing out the last legs of the historic contract there.
Okay. He won a world championship with the Marlins and never won another one. And if you asked him where his heart is, it's still in Miami. If you ask him the best part of his career, it was still his time with the Marlins. But it's a much better narrative for everyone to say, oh, who remembers him as a Marlin? And I'm not being defensive. I'm telling you that Miguel still is running around Weston all the time. You see him all the time. This is his home. This is his life.
But David, if you ask him, what cap are you wearing into Cooperstown? Is he saying the Marlins or the Tigers?
Hopefully he'd answer, because someone would prep him that the players don't get to choose the cap they wear in Cooperstown.
Well, whoever's choosing it for him is going to choose the Tigers.
It's a Tigers. It's a Tigers, and rightfully so, even though he won a world championship here. Look, you defended his legacy here. Well, I'm just saying, like, what the national perspective
Who did
is.
Greg Maddux go in as? Do you know?
It would be a Brave.
Brave for me.
It should have been a Cub. Yeah.
But
Right, but you say that. Miguel Cabrera's legacy is just as much as a Marlin as it is a Tiger because of what he accomplished as a Marlin.
Let me ask you what you remember of him as a player in celebrating the end here, Dave, because it sounds like what you're saying about his body type. I'm going to ask what would seem to be a ridiculous question. If Miguel Cabrera had partied less, if Miguel Cabrera had taken care of himself more, would Miguel Cabrera be even better than he was? Did he underachieve in some ways for what it is you guys expected of him once he had played the first 5 years if he had just taken care of himself?
Billy Gill would not be in Detroit today.
We have an update on that, by the way, David. Billy's
he's
not in first class. So I looked up the flights leaving from Miami to Detroit on FlightAware. There's American Airlines Flight 3618, which is taxiing right now. Takeoff was 8:32 a.m. is when they pushed back from the gate. And it looks like it's an Embraer 175. So I looked up the Embraer seating chart. There's 4 rows of first-class seats in the Embraer 175. Billy Gill's photo, you can see 4 rows of seats of first class ahead of him. So it looks like he's in the first row behind first class, which is row 7.
Wow. So he's going to land
that could be premium economy, though.
Yeah.
There's no premium economy.
Excellent.
What a thorough update. I
Jessica,
mean, amazing.
Excellent.
I've never had that much information on anything. I mean,
well, it's good work by Jessica in that
it's economy plus.
She is fascinated by this flight.
That is premium economy. Then.
You're right, David. There's a lot of economy plus on the Embraer 175. It looked like they were all in economy, but I was wrong. There are about 6 rows of economy and about 8 rows of economy plus.
amazing.
It's a difference in pitch only, Jessica, so don't worry. If you get 3 extra degrees of recline on the Embraer 170 or 175, that's how they can charge a little premium.
Jess, what time is this flight slated to land?
Around 11:30 a.m. Detroit time, which is Eastern
He's
time.
gonna have to hustle.
A dangerous game. We got a 110 first pitch. I was surprised to learn that Detroit is on the East Coast. And it's Eastern time. Yeah, it's
man.
Eastern time. I thought for sure it was Central time. Nope. It's about the airport is about 35 minutes away. He's going to have to hustle. I don't know if he brought bags. Oh, I hope he didn't. And he goes hitless today and he's stuck in Detroit with no bag.
Does he know how cold it is? Does he know how cold it is in Detroit? Because that is a mistake a Miamian can make every once in a while. Just getting on a plane with a sweater and not realizing that Detroit will be bone-chilling cold.
If I know Billy the way that I know Billy, he's at least he's bundled up. He might have checked and it said 75 degrees and he's bundled up because he thinks that is too cold.
High of 52
Do people
today.
not pack for the destination?
Nah.
No, I believe no, Samson. Most people I think do pack for a destination. This was just a bit of a scattered hustle. I don't know what Billy had going on. This was just done in the morning, so we're excited that he's doing that. But in remembering those days, we cut you off. You were beginning to say how much better do you think he would have been? He would have gotten 3,000 hits a long time ago.
Yeah, Billy would not have been in Detroit was how I started that, because he would have gotten it. Now, this is not in any way, I'm not creating a headline that he is an underperforming Hall of Famer. The fact is that I could give you a list of players from Ken Griffey to Vladimir Guerrero Sr. to Miguel Cabrera to Mark McGwire. I could name all these players who had injuries, who had problems at the end of their career, and there was reasons for that in each case. Whether it's not working that hard when you're young because your skill is so good, whether it's abuse of alcohol or partying or steroids or whatever the case is, there are many, many players who don't reach their full potential because of their off-field activities. But I don't blame Miguel for the type of life he led. He was a superstar. So with the Marlins, he did things that would make your eyes tear, but so do many players. But his skill was so good that he could roll into an afternoon game in last night's close and go 3 for 4. That's how good he was. But at the same time, it catches up to you. And it has caught up to Miguel.
Well, he's having a very good year this year for
It's
someone.
been 10 games.
Yeah, but
so it's
he's
Professional
looking good.
hitter, Mike,
Yeah, he's a
I mean,
professional hitter,
yeah,
and so
right.
far so
Right.
good. And hopefully he hits his milestone today. Good news: Chris Whittingham went back into our archives and found 16 premium minutes of Dave going through the history of the Miguel Cabrera trade, and we're going to air that as today's postgame as we celebrate the greatest Detroit Tiger ever.
You should look at his last few seasons. I think if you spoke to Miguel, he would acknowledge that his last few seasons with Detroit have not at all been what he would have expected them to be from a skill standpoint, Stu. So I hear you, he's hitting 300 this year,
Right.
but he would have gotten 3,000 a long time ago.
But still in Detroit. I mean,
Oh, not with the Marlins. He's been in Detroit forever and a day.
It's obvious that he was going to tail off a little bit. It's impressive that he's gotten off to a hot start and he's still looking like the pro hitter he's always looked like. Well,
He's
at least
so
for 15
natural
years.
at hitting, and he doesn't study video. He doesn't care about any of that stuff. He doesn't care what pitcher is throwing. He just sees the ball and hits the ball. He's the second best I've ever seen behind Vladimir Guerrero.
wow.
Let's switch gears now. We've been dunking on you enough, and if you want to hear Dave once again relive the story of that trade, today's post-game show. Interesting story came in. I couldn't believe this when I saw it on my timeline because the Carolina Panthers are in an absolute rock fight, no pun intended, with, what is the name? Rock Hill? Rock Hill, Carolina. It's South Carolina, is Rock Hill?
South Carolina, yeah.
Yeah, so the Carolina Panthers are named the Carolina Panthers for the same reason that the Florida Marlins were named the Florida Marlins. They wanted to take advantage of the entire region, so they didn't want to alienate North Carolina or South Carolina, so they'd just go by the Carolina Panthers, and their headquarters was slated to be in South Carolina. They're like midway through construction, and they're bailing on the entire project because the local government has ceased funding the project. I've never seen anything like this. There's just going to be a ghost building, David.
Oh, no, there's not going to be. There is currently. All that's actually happening, so a little background in this story. When you negotiate with the public to get money from the public in a public-private partnership, one of the biggest parts of the negotiation is the flow of funds. Flow of funds means, let's say you're redoing a house or building a house, You have to do a budget where you know how much money you're paying to which contractor when. So first you pay for the steel, and then you get the steel and the rebar, et cetera, et cetera. So flow of funds means if the Panthers are putting in $400 million and the public's putting in $400 million, whose money goes in first to pay the early subcontractors? And we always said, we want the public's money in first. The public would say, no, we want your money in first, because if we put our money in and you don't put your money in, then we're going to have a half-built ballpark. What are we going to do? And we said, I know what you're going to do. You are going to finish building the ballpark, because you can't have a half-built ballpark. It will not work. It will be an eyesore at the Orange Bowl. So cut to this flow of fund negotiation goes on now in every single stadium deal. And in Carolina, what they did is the owner of the Panthers, it's the, is it the Panthers?
Yes, Carolina Panthers.
David Tepper, has put in about $170 million, but the public was supposed to start feeding construction after his money went in, and they just stopped. And so he said, you know what? I'm walking away. We're done. But he can't be done, because then he will have to write off and literally throw away that money. Might as well have burned it. So what you say is, we're done. We're not going to keep building this. And then what the public does is they say, hold on, let's sit down and negotiate again. Because what Tepper was trying to do was get better terms on certain issues related to the lease, certain things related to some tax benefits for having his practice facility there. So the code for what's happening is renegotiation. That's it.
David, I want to go back with Mike Ryan, because you mentioned kind of effortlessly there, Mike. You guys really went through David's notes deep down into the weeds on business transactions. And I think, Mike, what you guys were doing during the pandemic and drilling down into the minutia of stuff is as close as you ever get to how these transactions really happen and how close some things are versus just reports. You got very close to the truth on how Miguel Cabrera got traded and what else, how history could have been different if the Marlins had traded for different prospects.
I wish I had the time to maybe piece together all the quarantine shows that I did with David, because we did like these 80s wrestlers deep dive podcasts, first person accounts, oral histories, and I'm really proud of those shows that I did with David. And we did everything that was seminal in his career, and there was some really good stuff there. And we'll hear with the post game today, see if that holds up, where he just goes really inside the weeds on major transactions, and this one being the Miguel Cabrera one is pretty timely. David, I hope you have the same fondness, because it was a weird time, and I'm really proud of those shows.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. I think that as time passes, it feels like years ago, right? Not just two, it feels like a decade ago. I think what people don't realize is that we were going through a time where we didn't know if we got COVID, we could die. Like, are there enough ventilators? There was such sort of angst about what was happening. Now, if you get COVID and you're vaccinated and boosted, you're going to be okay. If you're not, whatever. But back then, you just didn't know. And here you and I were in these makeshift at home trying to figure out Zoom, which now everybody knows how to do. It's just, that was the beginning of the world changing, and we took advantage of it, and I was happy to be a part of it. But we covered a lot of topics during that COVID pandemic.
In reliving some of that, and we'll give you a taste of it in the post-game show, but in reliving some of that, I don't know which one was the favorite of the things that you mined, Mike.
I know what Ariel's favorite was.
The bus the bus story was one of my favorites.
The bus was the best.
Okay, the story of how it is. I still think, David, we need to do something on that party bus. I think we need to explain. I think we need to have listeners and spend some time with people on this bus and do something with it, because it's one of the coolest things. It's one of the coolest transaction stories I've ever heard. You don't have to retell the whole thing, but
not, because maybe I'm going to put my blazer back on, and when we have something to celebrate, maybe I'll come in with the blazer riding on the Marlins bus.
Okay. Wow. All right.
We went through all the sale. We went through the 3 sales that David was a part of. The weird handoff, the unprecedented handoff from one franchise to another where Major League Baseball was directly involved. The Vladimir Guerrero contested acquisition when he tried to bring Vlad Guerrero over here. All sorts of great John Henry stories. I think Jack McKeon's most recent interview ever. I haven't seen him interviewed since, so who knows where that's glib. Never mind. But I really enjoyed the Jack McKeon show. I mean, at the time, it was like we were entering a pandemic where I didn't know if I was going to live through it.
No, he's immortal, though, is what Mike doesn't seem to still understand. This man was, I don't know what managing job the Marlins were for him, his 10th, but he was smoking 12 cigars a day 20 years ago.
I really fumbled through not trying to kill off Jack McKeon.
I know, but he's on the doorstep, and yet he's going to outlive us all.
Pack of cigars?
He's on the doorstep, but he's checking IDs. Like
Yeah,
you're
doesn't
all
smoke them
going in
anymore.
before him.
So I have to let you into something that I had a conversation with Larry Beinfest about. And this is a totally uncomfortable conversation, but I feel like I need to ask your opinion. Do you decide in advance which funerals you have to go to in person?
Whoa, no, I haven't started taking inventory of
This
which funerals I'm going to
took
be
an
attending.
unusual turn here.
Wow.
No, but I'm asking a serious question.
No, I
because
like
with-
this topic. Let's say
Right.
here.
You guys think I'm crazy, but
No,
I
I
think
don't.
about these things.
I do
think,
too, David.
I think you're crazy for admitting it.
I agree with that.
Yes, nothing personal with David Samson, where you will see the insides of his mind. Yes, all of us have
However-
thought it. None of us, until now, have been brave enough to admit it.
All right, I'm going to introduce a new game show. Will you attend this funeral? Let's begin.
Right? It's a top 5 list.
I'm going to get some really happy music
Top
for this
5
bit.
people not in your family whose funerals you have to attend, no matter whether you want to or not. Like you just have to go.
Let me get some goofy music for this segment.
What is the list?
I got the game. I've got the game.
Because
It's a great question.
okay.
Like Bud Selig. Do I
Damn
need
it,
to
that was
go
my
to his
first one.
funeral?
I felt like that one was
No.
safe enough.
All right. Well, Samson, you and I are going to talk for a second as he gets together this makeshift game show, and I have the joke ending with you not going to Jack McKeon's funeral. That's where this story ends. Where he didn't make the list. I'm sorry, Jack. You did not qualify.
Welcome to Will You Attend Their Funeral? I'm your host, Mike Ryan Ruiz. Today's contestant is former Marlins team president David Samson. David, how are you doing today?
I am good. So happy to be here.
Wait a
All
minute.
right.
Is it competition? Because I think you could do it to me too if you want to. If at some point we want to evolve the game show.
Let's
or
meet our
have-
second contestant, Dan Le Batard. How are you doing on this bright, sunny day?
Very excited to play. What is the name of the game show host?
Will you attend? I'm Mike Ryan. Will you attend their funeral? Dan, we'll begin with you. Dan, will you attend Dave Hyde's funeral?
Time out. We have to talk about the rules of the game.
Hold
on.
No, you need to let the wacky music.
I know,
play.
like, I'm going to say a name that's probably dealing with something and I don't know about it. This is a dangerous
The whole
game.
thing's dangerous, but it's a very makeshift game. We just put it together. We just assembled it. And the answer to your question is yes. But it's a surprise yes, only because I talked to Dave Hyde just last week.
But would you return from a vacation to attend Dave Hyde's funeral?
No.
Oh, this game is awesome. I love this game. Our next contestant is David Samson. David.
That was the quickest no ever. I would not drive to Broward for Dave.
No, wait. Whoa,
Oh, my God.
no,
It wasn't the same
no,
question.
that
That's
is
not how we're playing it. I was going to pose a new one.
You got me. Wait a minute. You've got me flying in from, Egypt. But no. No.
Next contestant is David Samson.
Is
David.
it during prime traffic?
No, I know. You said no. You made it my vacation. I placed myself in Africa, and there are very few people I'm ending that vacation for.
David, will you attend Alfredo Amezaga's funeral?
No.
Oh,
But I just was texting with him recently, actually, so now I feel badly about that. But no.
all right. We're going snake draft order. Back to you, David. Will you attend Dan Ugla's funeral?
Does he die young? If he dies like in the next...
Oh, no. Wait a
No.
minute.
So you're not traveling if you're over the age of 70 for Dan Ugly. He knows you're good. But if it's a tragic, sad, he had so much life to live, you would attend?
Exactly.
We'll allow it.
This is the greatest game ever made. When you have to dive down into what the degrees are, because you just admitted that you are only going to Dan Ugla's funeral if he dies young.
Dan Le Batard, will you attend Brian Kenny's funeral?
I can't tell you how happy this music makes me.
Dan, Brian Kenny has tragically passed away. Are you attending his funeral?
No.
Whew, cold and callous. I like it. We're back to David. This game is so fucked up. This is just a terrible game, and we're all going to hell for it.
Mike has lost
this is
the
the
room.
reason we're going to hell.
I've totally lost the room. Everyone has left.
Everyone, it is me and Samson descending into the darkness with Mike, because what's not going to happen here is that me and David will not answer any of these questions. So you can keep playing this game and it'll keep getting darker.
David, Nate Bump, would you attend his funeral?
No.
Wow. How about Carl Pavano?
Ooh. It depends who he was currently married to at the time of death.
Will Alyssa Milano show up to Carl Pavano's funeral?
Did you just admit that you would only go to Pavano's funeral if his famous celebrity wife was there because you had a childhood crush on her? Is that what you just admitted?
No.
Dan, would you attend Braden Looper's funeral?
No.
I'm sorry, I got my contestants confused. I meant Armando Salguero. I think you'd attend Armando's.
No way.
He would. He took him to a nightclub, his first nightclub. Would you attend Armando's funeral?
Oh, man. You know what? It really does depend.
You don't like what this says about you politically?
No. Actually, the degrees isn't what, isn't that he has gone.
You can punt on this question. Technically, we're out kicking it.
I would say that the reason that I'm wrestling with this is because it really does matter what I've got going on that weekend.
This game is so messed up. All right. So yes or no? I'm gonna pin you down on this one.
I can't
I'm
say
gonna pin
yes.
you down on this.
Am I totally free? Am I totally free
It's
on the
Memorial.
weekend?
It's Memorial Day weekend.
Okay, but I've got no plans.
No. I'm just saying it's Memorial Day weekend. Are you likely to have plans on Memorial Day weekend?
What I'm telling you is that I might get dressed for that, and if it says if there's a lot of red on my phone on the traffic,
Oh my God! You're gonna get dressed and check Waze?
I'm just saying
100%.
how much is the
You got to check Waze before you get dressed. That's a correct answer. We go to David. David, Rob Manfred.
Yes.
Dan, same question.
I'd be in jail.
Oh, no. And that has been, will you attend their funeral? We should have not done that.
Yeah,
I
probably
swear to
not.
God, I think about this stuff all the time.
But so what was your point, though, on Jack McKeon that got us here?
That I'm going to have to. That the point was, it doesn't matter when it is, where it is, no matter where I am in the world, that is a cut short moment because of what he means to me personally, what he means to me professionally. So there's a category of people where it doesn't matter what you're doing, you change your plan. and he is in that category.
What is the movie that you are reviewing for us this week? I do love this music. We need to keep playing this game. I think I can give you some good names, Mike, that will really test it better than Braden Looper would. Some real on the line guys. What's the movie?
We'll see if it gets picked up for a full season order.
Well, I think we started
I'm genuinely
strong.
worried about the audience feedback from this because this is some dark shit.
I disagree, by the way, but I don't think it's dark.
No,
I think this is what people think about but don't talk about, which is what I do.
It's indisputably dark, but when you put this music behind it, how dark can it be when I'm like surfing in a 50s disco? 70s disco, I guess.
Your review for the week.
So in your honor, I watched a documentary called Trust No One, The Hunt for the Crypto King. I assume that you watched that. That guy, Jerry Cotton, who's maybe dead.
I've heard really good things about this documentary, and I haven't watched it yet. I'm eagerly anticipating this review.
So this is a Canadian guy who started basically a crypto exchange in Canada and started it just from nothing, where he said, hey, how about if we buy and sell some crypto in it? And then it grew into this multi hundreds of $1 million company. And people were taking their money, all of their money that was in actual greenbacks, which I just realized is an expression that is probably not used too often anymore.
Yeah, you probably want to get rid of greenbacks.
I use the term pony up the greenbacks a lot because in an older edition of Madden, I'm really dating myself. When you were in a negotiation with a free agent and they would counter, they'd say, you need to pony up the greenbacks.
But is that I didn't actually mean it as a cancel culture. Like you can't say go ahead and sit Indian style. You have to say crisscross applesauce now.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with greenbacks. It's the back of what a dollar looks like.
Right, that's what I thought. But I was more referring to, I think from an age standpoint, I don't believe that people know what that is. But anyway, what was the question?
What you were reviewing.
Oh, so they take all of their money, all of their savings. These people are not rich, and they put it into this currency exchange, and you're supposed to be able to literally exchange your dollars for crypto, and then your crypto for dollars, whether you're laundering money, whether it's drug money, none of that matters. All of a sudden, these people put their money into this sort of online crypto exchange. They try to get it out, and all of a sudden, they get an error message. They can't get their money out. And they're trying for days and then weeks and then months and then years. And meanwhile, there's this guy, Jerry Cotton, who disappears and then all of a sudden is dead. But is he dead? Is he not dead? Does he have the hundreds of millions of dollars that have disappeared off his exchange? And the documentary talks to people who worked with him, who knew him, talks to people who lost all their money. And I get what people were trying to do, because if it looks like you can get rich quick, people are going to run to it. But I guess the one thing I would always caution people, if it's too good to be true, then it's not true. That's my general experience. And this documentary is about that concept.
Well, I just thought of a spinoff. Would they attend your funeral? Mike Redmond.
Mike Redmond will not attend my funeral. He will not even take my phone call.
Dan, same question.
He would not attend my funeral.
We'll see you next week on Would You Attend Their Funeral?
It's such a good game.
We're all going to hell.
It's a good game.